We're on a little bit of a delay here, hang tight.
Yeah.
Okay. Stand by, guys.
I'd like to call to order the regular August meeting of the Davison Board of Education. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is the roll call. Robin Risica.
Karen Conover,
Here.
John Hare,
Here.
Mark McGlashan,
Present.
Diane Rhines, here, Matthew Smith,
Present with a mask.
Granger Stefanko,
Here.
Kathleen Sudia.
Here.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
Move we approve the agenda as presented. Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item is the approval of the consent agenda.
Move we approve the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the consent agenda as printed. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We would like to welcome all of the public who happen to be watching tonight. This is your opportunity to address the board if you have any questions or concerns. Mr. Lobman, are there any concerns tonight?
Yeah, we received a written address from DEA President Kristen Neff, so I'm going to read that on behalf of her to you tonight. My name is Kristen Neff. I've been teaching in Davison for 13 years. I am president of the Davidson Education Association, and it is in that role that I wish to address the board tonight. I know that approval of the district's reopening plan is on the agenda for tonight. I know that administrators have worked exceptionally hard, not just writing the plan, but on putting the pieces in place that are necessary to live it out, and I do not envy the positions they are in. I acknowledge that, in regards to the safety protocols, the district's plan puts all the required elements, nearly all of the strongly recommended elements, and some of the recommended elements from the state's roadmap in place. I also know that teachers and support staff build relationships with students, and those relationships are crucial to learning. Each and every one of us believes the best place for our students to learn is in the classroom, in the care of highly trained professional educators and support staff, in an environment that prioritizes the health and safety of our staff, students, and families. And it is because of that I must ask you, is the plan you are voting on enough to keep our students and staff safe? You may have seen the CDC study that was released on Friday regarding the summer camp in Georgia that facilitated an outbreak of at least 260 cases. A significant percentage of cases were children under the age of 10. Although staff were required to wear masks, the children were not. The CDC report concluded by saying this demonstrated that children of all ages are susceptible to SARS-CoV-2 infection, and contrary to early reports, might play an important role in transmission. The CDC also states that the highest risk occurs in full-sized, in-person class where students are not spaced apart, share classroom materials or supplies, and mix between classes and activities, and that face coverings are most essential when distancing is difficult. Yet, according to the conversations I have had, the district doesn't anticipate a large reduction in class sizes, so distancing will be attempted but limited. And further, it is not requiring masks in the classrooms at the K-4 level, where these students spend the majority of their time. I know that neither K-4 mask wearing in the classroom nor 6-foot distancing were listed as required practices in the roadmap, but according to the Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals, the strongly recommended practices should be followed unless they are not feasible. In a joint statement with the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators and the Michigan Association of School Boards, Districts were strongly advised that highly recommended and recommended protocols be adopted in districts' preparedness plans because they are rooted in science and public health evidence. K-4 mask wearing is one practice that is not feasible for us, but easy to implement. K-4 mask wearing is one practice that is not only feasible for us, but is easy to implement, as students are already wearing them on the bus and in hallways. Why are we not requiring a simple practice that the CDC, the state, and the leading education associations all recommend to keep us safe? One that is required in all other public spaces by the governor's July 10th executive order at a time when our country is still at a medium-high risk level according to the state. I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the high level of anxiety many staff members are experiencing right now as well. People who don't feel safe are more likely to be anxious, reactive, and unproductive. And yet, to get through this time, we need teachers to be at their best. If we want the best education and atmosphere for our students that we can provide in a pandemic, which I'm sure is everyone's goal, we need to do as much as we can to help the adults who are caring for them feel safe as well. With the majority of balanced calendar districts around us either pushing back their start date or starting virtual, I don't want us to be the guinea pigs and get this wrong. I understand how badly everyone wants life and teaching to go back to normal. Believe me, I do as well, but nothing about this is normal. If the district will not consider pushing back the start date or starting virtually like a number of other districts are doing, I think it is imperative that we implement every safety measure to avoid an outbreak in our buildings. I respectfully urge you to take this into consideration as you vote on the plan tonight.
Any other comments or concerns?
I do not see any from anybody else that has provided their address or name.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we will move on to correspondence. Mrs. Conover.
No correspondence this evening.
Then we'll move on to the action items, and the first item is the approval of the district's return to school plan. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. And I'd like to, if the board doesn't mind, I would like to address Mrs. Neff's statement. I'd like to thank President Kristen Neff for her comments. We value our relationship with our teachers, and believe me, no one is more concerned about the safety of our students and our staff than the people sitting in this room right now. We have been, and we will continue to work closely with local health officials on the medical issues, and we have carefully drafted a plan, a proposed plan, to assure compliance with all the local health and safety protocols, as well as the governor's concerning health and returning to school. The governor's Return to Learn Committee differentiated between those things that are required and those things that are recommendations, because they realized that it would be challenging for schools to adopt all of their recommendations as requirements. Concerning masks specifically, we will strictly adhere to the current safety protocols in place for our region, recognizing the medical and privacy rights of our students and our employees. There are several reasons why masks are not being mandated for our youngest learners. While wearing a mask for a relatively short period of time in public may be fine, for these young children to wear a mask for an extended period of time, such as the entire school day, would be difficult. And again, that is why the committee chose not to make masks mandatory for K-5 students. It should also be noted that the governor's return to school roadmap does not strongly recommend K-5 students wear masks, but rather it recommends that the district consider requiring K-5 students to wear masks, or actually facial coverings. We have done that, and we have decided not to require it. Likewise, concerning social distancing and other health and safety protocols, we will strictly follow the requirements issued by our health officials for schools in our region. Mrs. Neff references the CDC regarding the possible spread of COVID-19 in schools. And I'm not familiar with the day camp in, I think it was Georgia that she had mentioned. But I do know that there are several countries that have already returned students to school. South Korea, Germany, the United Kingdom among them, where studies have been done. And to this point, I am not aware that they have found even a single case of student-transmitted coronavirus to a teacher. The Times of London reported, and I quote, that nowhere in the world has it been reported a teacher caught COVID from a student. And even when Mrs. Neff referred to the study of the day camps, she said, the CD said, it might be transmissible. But there's no hard evidence or science to support that claim. Just last week, on July 28th, the Denver Post reported that, and again, I'm going to quote, research papers published in Australia, France, Ireland, the Netherlands, and Germany found negligible transmission of COVID-19 in school settings. And I am not aware of any confirmed student-to-transmission cases of the virus. Delaying the start of schools is not recommended. I don't know what good that would do us. It just simply delays the inevitable. Our students have been out of school since March 12th. The CDC recommends that children return to school for face-to-face instruction. Our parents have indicated through a recent Google survey and our online registration process that they overwhelmingly support having their children back in school for face-to-face instruction. As of today, we've had approximately 82% of our families either register or respond to our Google survey. And 76% of those people responding have indicated they want their children to return for face-to-face instruction. With all of that said, we will remain nimble and prepared in the event of another shutdown if required by our local health officials or state leaders. And please understand that not having a plan is not an option. We are required by the Governor's Executive Order 142, I believe it is, to have a plan for 3 phases. Phase 3, in which we are shut down and we are forced to move to distance learning for all students. Phase 4, which is where we are currently at, and Phase 5, which further loosens the restrictions. We've developed a plan that not only will provide us a way to get back to face-to-face instruction in Phase 4 and 5, but also a plan that continues to meet the required 180 days and 1,098 hours of instruction without allowing large assemblies, by shortening days and keeping kids cohorted at the elementaries. We are, as Mrs. Neff pointed out, following all of the required guidelines in the governor's roadmap and all but maybe a few of the strongly recommended things. So, with that, the district has completed our return to school plan, and it has been approved by the Genesee Intermediate School District. It was submitted last week in draft form, and Dr. Hagel is simply waiting for me to give her the green light that our board has adopted the plan, and she will send it to the MDE and the Department of Treasury on our behalf. So we are now seeking board approval for that plan. A copy was previously provided to all board members, and we are recommending your approval of that plan this evening.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve our district's return to school plan. Any discussion?
Well, we have to give kudos to the superintendent and to the administrators and any staff that participated in putting this together. It's unique It's creative, it's safe, it meets all the criteria that we have to meet, and some extra besides. And I think parents are excited about it. Once the little glitches in the registration was worked out, things have gone along quite smoothly, and I think parents are excited about this whole prospect. So we appreciate all the work that's gone into it, and we know it's not over, that there'll be still some glitches to work out.
Piggybacking off my colleague here, I also think that the administration has done a fantastic job working through all of this. You know, none of us want this. None of us want to deal with a virus with masks. It's changing the course of all of our lives, that's for sure. But, you know, Davison Schools is becoming a leader with this, a trailblazer. Other districts are looking at what we are doing. And I know we have to step out front and be one of the first ones to come out with a plan, as we did, or one of the first ones. But again, kudos to the administration, and I think this plan is going to have to work, because we've got to get back to being normal to our everyday lives. And I know I talk to parents all the time. A lot of parents are concerned, but some parents are just, we want to go back to where our kids are not at home. We can't do the online stuff full time. We want to get them back in the classroom learning, because as we know, our children's brains are a sponge between kindergarten and 8th grade and so on, and we want them in the classroom learning.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. And thank you again, Mr. Brown, to you and your team.
You're very welcome.
Good plan. And we'll move on to the approval of the parent and student handbook. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. Every year, the district updates its parent and student handbook. The updated handbook was previously provided for your review. Due to state and pupil accounting practices, the parent and student handbook requires board approval annually, and we recommend your approval of the 2020-2021 Davidson Community Schools Parent-Student Handbook this evening.
Make a motion to approve the 2020-2021 Davidson Community Schools Parent and Student Handbook.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the 2020-2021 Davidson Community Schools Parent and Student Handbook. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move on to the approval of district courses. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. Most of you know that every year we ask you to approve courses for high school credit. Just recently, within the last year or two, I believe it is, the state now requires approval of all courses offered in the district K through 12 by the board each year. So, the Michigan Department of Education requires the Board of Education of a local district to authorize its courses annually. The courses offered for credit at Davison High School can be found on the Davison High School course catalog, which is posted on our website. In addition, the courses listed in the Davison High School course catalog, Davison Alternative Education High School offers the following courses that also receive high school credit: School to Work, Senior Project, Creative Writing, Consumer Math, and SAT Prep. A list of all courses offered in grades developmental kindergarten through 8th grade is attached for your review. All of the courses DK through 12 have an ACC approved curriculum. The Davison Community Schools has also created our own Davison Online courses utilizing ACC approved curriculum, aligned to state standards and taught by the Davison High School teachers. The Davison Community Schools also enrolls students in GenNet online courses and curriculum through the Genesee Intermediate School District's GenNet portal. All of the courses offered through the GenNet have been reviewed to ensure they are aligned to the Michigan state standards. We recommend that you approve the courses listed in the Davison High School course catalog, the additional courses identified as taught at Davison Alternative Education High School, the courses listed for DK through 8th grade, Davison online courses, and online courses offered through the GenNet portal for the 2020-2021 school year.
I'll move it.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the courses listed in the Davison High School course catalog. The additional courses identified as taught at Davison Alternative High School, the courses listed for DK 8th grade, Davison online courses, and online courses offered through the GymNet portal for the 2020-2021 school year. Any discussion?
Shout out to Mrs. Hards and the administration. I had a chance to listen to all these in depth in committee, and I'm very happy with them.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next is the approval of the Davison Community Schools Cardinal Stadium Restroom Project. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, President Sudia. So far, bids have been received for the Cardinal Stadium Restroom Project. The Davison High School, the bids are attached and a recommendation memorandum from Executive Director of Operations Phil Tome, which includes a bid tabulation and recommendation letter from DCC Construction. The Buildings, Grounds, and Transportation Committee has reviewed the recommendation and unanimously agreed to approve the recommendation to award the bids as described below. And what you see there are several different, aspects or components of the overall job. Concrete work is being recommended to Fessler Bowman in the amount of $106,000. The masonry work to McMath Masonry Incorporated in the amount of $93,280. Door openings, frames, and drywall finishes to J. Perez Construction in the amount of $31,000. Restroom dividers and doors to R.E. Leggett in the amount of $31,655. Plumbing and HVAC work to Dickerson Mechanical in the amounts of $68,600 and $23,800 respectively, and site work to Kennedy Excavating for $62,391. It may seem a little bit odd to award these contracts to all of these different companies for one project. The idea behind that was to save the district a little bit of money. Instead of hiring a general contractor who would then subcontract all of this work and take a cut off the top, we decided to bid each of them individually and allow different vendors then to come in and compete for those jobs, which hopefully reduced the cost to the district overall and saved us some money in the long run. So these are all the low bids in their respective categories, and based on the bids we received, we recommend approval of the low bids listed above for the Cardinal Stadium Restroom Project.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported to recommend the approval of the low bids listed above for the Cardinal Stadium Restroom Project. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next is the approval of the Davison Community Schools mechanical upgrades at the Davison High School, Hahn Intermediate, and Middle School projects. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, President Sudia. Another project we have going on is to get some of the mechanical work done at 3 of our buildings. This is some of that critical needs work, along with the roofing that's currently being done at Seipel, the high school, the alternative ed building. We're also going to be doing some work in the mechanical rooms at our 3 biggest buildings, the Hahn Middle School and High School. So the bids have been received for the mechanical upgrades at the high school, middle school, and Hahn. Attached is a recommendation memorandum from Executive Director of Operations Phil Tome, which includes a bid tabulation and recommendation letter from DCC Construction. The Building and Grounds and Transportation Committee has reviewed the recommendations and unanimously agreed to approve the recommendation to award the bids as described below. In this case, based on the bids we received, we recommend approval of the low bid to LJ Roll Refrigeration Company in the amount of $135,000 for the upgrades at Davison High School, Hahn Intermediate, and the middle school projects.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the low bid from LJ Roll Refrigeration Company in the amount of $135,000 for the upgrades at the Davison High School, Hahn Intermediate, and Middle School projects. Any discussion?
When we say mechanical, can you give me an example of that, or is it just?
Oh, Well, I wish Mr. Tome were here and he could explain it to you. One of the things is for a large water tank that has to be, so that the water can be heated and we don't run out of hot water. Other things are water pumps. Mark or John or Granger, can you help me out here with the details of specifically what some of that work was? I honestly don't remember all of the work that was being done, but it's work primarily with water pumps and water circulation.
Which we need.
And water storage,
I
yeah.
believe the biggest amount of that was for the water circulation pump at the high school.
So,
Yeah,
things
we-
like that.
We were running on half a system, and on a cold day, we could have problems getting heat throughout the building, because one of the two pumps that was moving the water
This is at the high school?
at the high school was not working at all, and the other one had been rebuilt, but not totally reliable, so this will make it so our heating system is reliable at the high school. I can tell you that one. I'm trying to remember what the other two were.
That was the big one, I think.
Yeah, that was the biggest one, and the water tank was, yeah, those were the two biggest things.
Good enough for me.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item is the acceptance of contributions. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mrs. Studio. We only have one contribution today. Local.
What a nice one.
It's a very nice one. Local seamstress, Myrna Lamb. I'm sure some of you know Myrna.
Oh,
She's been in the
yes.
community for a long time. She's a great lady. She was actually doing some work for me and offered to also provide some hand-sewn masks in adult male, adult female, and child size. And so I got the first installment of those when I was over at her house earlier this week. She provided over 60 masks, and she said she's going to keep making them. So we're very grateful, and I would ask that you accept that contribution, and I would be more than happy to write a letter on your behalf thanking her for that as
So
well.
moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to accept the contribution of the handmade mask. Any discussion?
They are nice masks. They are lovely masks. My grandchildren benefited from a bunch of them that she gave them. They're really lovely.
She's a very talented lady. She does a
Mhm.
nice job.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move on to the information items from the superintendent. Mr. Brown.
Not a lot. We do have our final two graduation ceremonies scheduled later this week on Sunday. We were really hoping, we were holding out and hoping that by now we would be moved into phase 5 and we'd be able to have more traditional ceremonies at our stadium for our kids that still have not gone through a graduation. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to happen, and we're going to remain in phase 4. So we're probably going to end up doing 2 more drive-up ceremonies like we did on July 13th for that first group of students, which in all honesty, I thought that turned out better than I would have anticipated. I think it's unfortunate that our kids and our families don't get to participate in some of those traditional rites of passage, at least the way they always have. But it's the best we can do given the circumstances. So we also have, of course, our bond work. I think I shared some pictures with some of you of some of the abatement work that was done at the high school recently and the putback. The company did a phenomenal job. I mean, it was some of the cleanest work. It was really, really well done. We also have roofs. A brand new roof has already been done at the high school gymnasium. The work has been completed. I think they're very close to being finished, or may have actually finished at the alternative ed building as well, a brand new roof there. And they're currently working out at Seipel to put a new roof on that building. So most of our focus this summer has been on some of those critical needs that were so important to get done with some of those bond dollars. The design work on the high school auditorium is amazing, and the new TV studio and the surrounding spaces. It's truly going to be something special. The design work on the new field is pretty well completed. We're working with the drain commissioner now to get all the necessary permits and things like that are required. And there's going to be a lot going on over the next few years, but I guess that's about it.
Thank you. Any other matters which need to come before the board at this time?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Moved and supported to adjourn. All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.